The number one risk to home sellers going forward in 2024 and beyond are realtors. Now, why is that? Well, buyer's compensation has become a huge issue. I'm sure everyone, not everyone, but most people are aware that real estate agents have been sued and lost billions of dollars. The National Association of Realtors and Keller Williams were sued in Missouri, and they've been rung up by jurors for billions of dollars. RE/MAX and some other agents, brokerages, have agreed to settle for tens of millions of dollars. And the issue is that they were compensating buyer's agents, and the plaintiff's attorneys, and in this case it was sellers, thought that that was an unethical practice that made the price of homes go up. Now, after these massive settlements and lawsuits, copycat lawsuits have been filed all over the country, and some lawsuits in which the plaintiff's attorneys are representing buyers, also claiming it's wrong for sellers to compensate buyers. Now, that second issue and that second group is very interesting to me, but there's even one more interesting reason why it is, at this point in time, very risky for sellers themselves to offer compensation to buyer's agents. Now, as a background, there will be realtors giving you opinions about your risks of offering compensation to buyer's agents. If your realtor does that, that's not the realtor for you. That realtor is practicing law without a license, and they're ignorant of the real practice of law, completely ignorant. Now, this is really a test for your lawyer, and here's the question. What happens after the sale of my home if I've offered compensation to buyer's agents? Am I at risk for lawsuits from disgruntled buyers? Now, is the answer yes or no? And how often does it happen? So let me just say, first of all, the answer is people are always at risk to lawsuits after their home is sold for multiple reasons. One of them is when the price of homes go down, buyers get upset and they want out and they want to rewrite the deals. They want to unwind the deals. They want compensation. And it's January 2024 right now. We saw articles that prices are soft, if not going down in Palm Springs. I've spoken with people in Arizona. Prices are going down there. Las Vegas, I'm hearing from in-laws the same thing. And it could be happening in other parts of California. So when prices go down, buyers want out. They talk to lawyers. I'm a lawyer and a realtor. I know this. I remember it. I still get calls. The other time you get calls is when people discover things about their property that they think should have been disclosed and no one disclosed to them. And that happened. You get calls as a real estate lawyer about that a lot. If you are up on the internet or you've done videos, people call frequently. And you have to tell them, yeah, we have to show, in general, if you want to prevail here, you'd have to show that the seller knew about it or that the realtor knew about it or should have known about it due to an inspection, and they would have seen it. And if they don't, it gets harder and harder. So you're like, I could work for you. I realize it's an interesting case when they have an interesting one, but we're going to have to spend time developing these facts, and then I'll give you my assessment about whether you should file. But I don't do these things on a contingency fee, so it will cost X dollars an hour, $20, 20 hours to get started, and then we'll go from there. That's usually enough for people to say, do you know anyone who do it as a contingency fee? Now, that whole calculus gets changed in this market because we've already seen that it could be considered unethical in some courts for seller's agents to offer compensation to buyer's agents. Right? So right there, that's a theory of the case. Did you offer money to the buyer's agent? Should my buyer's agent have made sure we got a better inspection, done a better inspection? Should he or she have seen these defects when they did their walkthrough? Those are all new issues. Now, but this is the big one. We know that the plaintiff's class action lawyers, and we get the hint, I think I've gotten the flavor of this from reading articles, DOJ and others, but certainly the plaintiff's class action lawyers are saying they want to put a stop to the practice of offering compensation to buyer's agents. So, if NAR wants to survive or CAR wants to survive, I realize they're in a really tough spot because they're supposed to be working on behalf of agents to get presumably more compensation and do a good job for home sellers. But they need to survive in these lawsuits and put an end to some of these lawsuits. So maybe they can put an end by working something out with the DOJ, then getting state courts and state legislatures in line. Like that has to be their big picture. So at some point they may say it's no longer ethical for realtors to offer compensation to buyer's agents, or that it never really was. And now all these sales that might close in 2024 might be subject to being unwound by buyers or subject to these class action suits until it's all settled out. It's a mess. So why do when I was here, why would I say all real estate agents and not just buyer's agents? Because the first people on the line for this, the easy money for plaintiff's lawyers, like a one-on-one case, is to sue the realtor, sue the listing agent, sue the listing broker, sue the listing franchise. But if they're going to do that work, and they think the seller should have known too, why wouldn't they include the seller if they're already doing the work? It's not the same calculus with a class action where you're like, what are the chances this group is worth it to us for our time to do all the things and spend all the time litigating against a class that may walk away and not pay us. However, if you're a seller with assets, plaintiff's lawyers might figure that out and you could be on the hook. So your risk is through your listing agent being named for their insurance or for their business assets and you. So if you're selling your home and you offer compensation to a buyer's agent, your realtors are presenting you with the number one risk I can think of to you sleeping at night after the sale of your home. But can it be remedied? Yes. It's very simple. In essence, realtors are going to have to use some of their commissions to make sure buyers and sellers are properly represented. And I mean, they should bring lawyers on the deal at their costs. They're already making enough money. Now, if they're doing a big discount, they're selling at a discount, maybe they're saying, I need you to pay for a lawyer. But someone needs to bring some lawyers in so you can sleep at night. So here's the deal. The compensation is seller suits. Here are the models. 1, a seller, an agent, could offer no compensation to buyer's agents. I think that's a pretty good model. It can be done. You can get top dollar doing it if there's good demand, if it's easy to figure out what your house is worth, if your house presents well. You have an open house, you have a bunch of people come through. Sorry, I hit the mic. And you can, and we've done it. We sold houses without offering compensation to buyer's agents. And when you have enough offers coming in and they're all about the same level, you kind of know where the market is right now. What do you need a buyer agent for that for? In general, like there's always a possibility that a buyer agent will bring in more, if you're compensating buyer's agents, you'll have more buyers come see your property. And one of those agents will pay more. One of those buyers will pay more. There's always a possibility. That's why for some sellers, it makes sense to compensate buyer's agents. It really depends on how much you're trying to get for your home. You're trying to get top dollar, or you just want to get what the market value says it is right there, that it's easily ascertained. Now, a second model that I think we eventually should all go through is that we'll say we're open to offering buyer's compensation. So we're going to take in offers, and on those offers, state what the request is for buyer's compensation. We may or may not negotiate even that amount, but we'll check it out and we'll rank them. I've done this, and I've told, almost all the buyer's agents will say, there's no compensation in the MLS, or there's $10. Are you willing to offer more? And I will say, my seller is interested in selling their property, and of course they'd be willing to offer buyer agent compensation if it makes sense. And they're like, well, why would they do that when they might sell it? Like, why are they going to pay me 2%? I'll tell you. And I say, I'll tell you why. Because we have some offers coming in. If your buyer is the type of buyer that's going to close, we have confidence your buyer will close, and they make a good offer, and their net is only a few $1,000s lower to my seller, like let's say with the other, we'll net $1 million with the other buyer who's just paying cash, but with your deal will only net $990,000. That $10,000 might be worth it, or $995,000. That $10,000, $5,000. I will advise my seller may be worth it, because sometimes buyers get cold feet. Sometimes buyers start dragging. They don't know how to deal with their lender as well. They don't close deals as often. So that $5,000 to a seller that wants to move on with their life might be well worth it to make sure that the buyer is well compensated. But I'll tell you what, going forward, for that compensation, I also need a letter from an attorney advising them that they've requested agent compensation, and they know the risks and rewards, and they still ask for it instead of trying to negotiate a lower price. That's what we're going to need to see. Compensation offer in the MLS. So we start with none. After a week or two, we go to 2 or 3%, whatever is customary, or maybe even a little more if we really want to sell. Unquestionably, a certified buyer. And what's a certified buyer? Well, for now, before I explain what I think is good enough, certified buyer is a buyer who's talked to an attorney and given us the type of disclosures or declarations that we'd like to see. For instance, they understand that the seller is offering compensation to their buyer's agent. They've been advised of the pros and cons and the risks by an attorney, and that they'd rather accept that money than try to negotiate a lower price for themselves with no compensation to their buyer's agent. Something along those lines. We talk about it specifically in different deals. So in next videos, and I've already done some, why would a seller want to offer buying compensation, when and why? I'll talk about my own practice in more detail. And but in short, let's wind this up because we're just at the 10-minute mark. If you're going to sell your home and you're going to offer buyer's agents, and there's a compensation, you're going to offer compensation to the buyer's agents, and there's many reasons why you would, or times you would, but not always, you have to make sure that that buyer's certified. If you have an agent trying to tell you there's no risks, that agent not only is practicing law without a license, they don't really care about your future, and maybe they don't even care about their own. I mean, I don't get how any agent could pretend they can know what's going on in this market. And you could just say, well, what if we're offering compensation to buyer's agents, the deal closes, and 2 days later, they have a settlement, and it's determined that it's unethical to offer money to buyer's agents. Then what? Are you really telling me you can tell me what the law is on that stuff? No. All right, thanks. Talk to you later. Bye. More videos on this coming. winnerscheck.com. We'll be posting more information there if you want to get in touch with us. Thanks.